What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy EZ3 back at it again with a new video. This MLB offseason has been crazy. We have a bunch of moves. We have a bunch of money getting thrown around. Hint, hint, Steve Cohen and the Mets. And we have a bunch of new players on new teams. And this led to a question that got asked in my group. Who has the best infield in all the MLB? But I had to break it down because the best infield includes defense, includes offense. So I split it in half. In this video, I'm going to give you the top defensive infield for the MLB. Now, we can't just going around saying, oh, these big names, Carlos Correa, Trey Turner, make that infield the best infield in the MLB. We got to look at the stats. So I chose 3 top defensive stats in order to get my list. And those 3 stats are, boom, right here. OAA, outs above average, DRS, defensive runs saved, and R total, which is total value. We're going to get into those top 3 stats in just a little later. But before we do, don't forget, like, follow, and subscribe, and share this with your sports-loving friends. Check out all the rest of my videos. I'm going to have more baseball stuff coming at you as we get closer to the start of the season. All right, with that, let's get on into the numbers, and let's get on into what the stats mean. All right, so the first stat we're going to be talking about is OAA, or outs above average. Notice the above average here. Save that for later. So a quick definition of outs above average, it's a range-based metric of skill that shows how many outs a player has saved. In essence, how many outs that player has given to his team. When it comes to infielders, the OAA takes the following factors into account. Now, this is where all the stats come in. How far the fielder has to go to reach the ball, also known as the intercept point. How much time he has to get there. How far he is from the base the runner is already headed to. And on force play, how fast the batter is on average. All right, just to break it down further, here's a nice little visual look of what OAA is. So don't forget, above average. So 0 doesn't mean that your infielder sucks. It means he's average. Anything less than 0, they're below average. Greater than 0, above average. Easy, easy. So it's the average outs expected. And to break it down even simpler, it's when you're watching a game and you see a ground ball go to your shortstop and you know for sure it's going to be an out. Or if it's a weak ball to the hot corner and Nolan Arenado's got to run down the line and barehand it, that takes into account, was it an easy out or was it a hard out? That's where all the stats come in. That's what OAA takes into account. So that's OAA in a nutshell. Let's get on to the next one, DRS. DRS, or defensive runs saved. This quantifies a player's entire defensive performance by attempting to measure how many runs a defender saved. We're taking away from the outs now. Now it's solely on runs saved. And it takes into account errors, range, outfielder infield arm, and double play ability. And this differs slightly from UZR, ultimate zone rating, but it's the same concept in general. So this is where I had to choose a couple concepts that are easy to explain, and I didn't want to kind of have all the same concepts, you know. So that's DRS in a nutshell. How many runs that your individual infielder has saved. Of course, taking into account a bunch of different statistics. And for our last statistic that I use, it is R total, or total zone, total fielding runs above average. Once again, look at that above average. We're going to go back to a 0 as average, plus minus, above, below. It's the number of runs above or below average the player was worth based on the number of plays made. And it's a combination of RTZ, which you'll see down below real quick, RDB, ROF, and R catch numbers into a total defensive contribution. All right, now that we broke down the top 3 stats that I'm using, I'm going to go ahead and break it down further how it took every team's infield and was able to apply these stats. But don't forget, when I say infield, I am only meaning 4 positions. The first baseman, the second baseman, the shortstop, and the third baseman over at the hot corner. I took out the pitcher and the catcher, and of course the outfield, because this is a defensive infield, so the 4 guys that have more of a chance to have an impact on your team's score and or outs. So we took those 4 positions and I looked up each stats on every player. So I took all night to look at every player, do some Excel magic, and I'll show you this product that I have. And this is where we get into grading everybody by scale. So let's jump on into the product. And here's my Excel product that I put together. So using Fangraphs, Baseball Reference, and also StatCast, I was able to come up with all these numbers. So for example, we're going to go ahead and take, let's think of a big, boom, let's go with Toronto Blue Jays. All right, here's your Toronto Blue Jays right here. Thinking of a big time organization who should be up there, correct? All right, so we're going to take Vladdy Jr., for instance, out of first baseman. His OAA was a -4, meaning he was 4 below average, right? And he was ranked 163 out of everybody who played first base last year in 2022. For his DRS, he was actually 3 above average, and he was ranked 11th for his. So defensive runs saved and outs above average. So he didn't really get too many outs. Don't forget, first base, kind of hard. You're going to have to, most of the time when they get balls hit over to first, they're probably nukes. But he was able to save some runs there. Now his run total is -2, and he was 162. So your OAA and your run total are kind of similar. So as you can see, he was ranked 162 there. So with the rest of his Blue Jay entourage here, as you can see, the lowest ranking that we had for OAA is going to be Whit Merrifield at 25 when he's 3 above average. And the lowest ranking we have for DRS was going to come over here by Matt Chapman, 27. That's the hot corner. Matt Chapman, a Gold Glove third baseman. Of course, he's going to have saved a bunch of runs. So he had 27 above average, and he's actually second in the MLB for that. So what I did is after we gather these numbers, right, here's their rankings based on the MLB, and here's their straight stat number based on the stat. I came over here and I took the average of their pure stat. So -4.3, -7.1. That's the way the Blue Jays rang out. And their average for the infield is a -1.75 under. Okay, so they're under 1.75 there on the average outs. Next, did the same thing with DRS. So defensive runs saved. As an infield, they have saved about 2.25 runs. And then I took their R total, -6 under. And of course, did that with the rest of the league. As you can see here, a lot of players, a lot of stuff to look up on different Excel sheets, but was able to bring it into one sheet. And of course, I went by the averages. And for each average here in this column, you're going to have a ranking. There's a lot of ties. So not everybody, it's not a clear ranking. There is going to be a bunch of ties. And after finding their ranking, I took the average of their 3 rankings, and that's where we come up with our spot, our final spot. So now that you know the backbone of it, we're going to go ahead and reveal our top 5, and we can finally dive in to what made it their top 5 or what doesn't make them number 1. Let's get into it. All right. And at number 5, we have a 3-way tie. Now, we're not going to be digging into their numbers by each position. We're just going to go off the average because we're going to save that for the top 3. But tied for 5th is the Baltimore Orioles, the Miami Marlins, and the Pittsburgh Pirates. And if you go off the averages, you can see Baltimore leading the pack in 6th place at a 3.75 for average, outs above average. So 3.75 over. Right behind them, you can see Miami, and then in 11th with a 2 is Pittsburgh. But when it comes to DRS, defensive runs saved, Pittsburgh Pirates putting it on. They are 4th ranked, and they have a 5.25 runs saved, as opposed to the Miami Marlins, who are 9th ranked in 2.5. And then finishing it off at run total, total value, Miami Marlins are 3.75 above the average. And then behind them, Pittsburgh Pirates. So because of all this up and down, you can see their final averages were 7. They were ranked 7, and they're going to be coming out 5th place. A lot of good talent in this on these 3 squads. Hopefully, we get to see one of them move up next season. Now let's get on to number 4. And at number 4, you have a 2-way or just a regular way tie between the Oakland Athletics and the Colorado Rockies. Once again, not going to dive too far into these, but if you look at the average OAA, the Oakland Athletics are fourth with a 4.25 above the average. And the Colorado Rockies coming in at 8 with just 3 above. For average defensive runs saved, this is where Colorado beat everybody. They are actually the #1 ranked team for average defensive runs saved. It has a lot to do with the person in the hot corner over there, and of course Brendan Rodgers at second. And then for average total, for our total, at number 7 and 8 were both of them. Oakland with 2.75, and right behind them, Colorado at 2.25, leading them out to have an average ranking of a 5.7 and giving them 4th place. Now get ready. We're about to enter the top 3, and in the top 3, we're going to break it down by position. And breaking to number 3, we have the Cleveland Guardians. Now we're going to go by position here and see how they were able to be ranked number 3 against all the other teams. So at first base, Josh Naylor. He was ranked 7th in first baseman last year with a above 3 on the outs above average. For DRS, he was ranked 46th among his first basemen with just a 1. And for our total, he was actually ranked 4th with 5, which is a pretty good standard there. So at the first base, he was pretty solid as a first baseman. Now here's where it gets into the nitty gritty. Second base, Andres Jimenez. We all know had a brilliant year. He was a first time All-Star. For outs above average, he had a 12 at second base, and this was ranked 2nd among second basemen, so just one more person in front of him. For the DRS, he had 16, and this was also ranking him 2nd. And of course, for run total, or excuse me, our total, he had an 8, and this was another 2nd. So this is what kind of helped the infield here propel on averages. Jimenez being 2nd in all 3 categories. And at shortstop, we had Ahmed Rosario, who had an under 7, so he was below average on the outs above average there, ranking 133 among shortstops. And a DRS of a 6, so ranking 14, so kind of got his ranking back there, and an R total of a 3, ranking him 24. So when it came to outs, he was kind of bleh, but a little run tier in the total zone kind of saved him. And at third baseman, another all-star for OAA third base, Jose Ramirez. He had 1. He was ranked 32nd among third basemen. For defensive runs saved, he had a 2, and he was ranked 28th. And for total zone, he had a 1. He was ranked 52nd. But averaging it out, the Cleveland Guardians were able to average 2.25 above outs above average there, ranking them 10th. And for DRS, they averaged 6.25, ranking them 3rd, thanks to Andres Jimenez. And a average run total of 4.25, ranking them 3rd, bringing them over to a 5.3 average ranking and giving them a solid 3rd place. I look to see a lot to come out of the second base. Of course, J-Ram's going to always be there. They need Ahmed Rosario to step it up this season. And we'll see if they're able to climb up to 2nd. So with that, let's get on to 2nd, which is going to be another tie. And at number 2, we have another tie. And this is going to be between the Chicago Cubs and the San Diego Padres. Of course, the Cubs with a great offseason acquisition of Dansby Swanson, who's helped them out here. That's kind of what helped. We're going to dive on into this. So both teams averaged a ranking of 4.3. But if we break it down, for the Cubs at first base, Patrick Wisdom had a outs above average of a -2, ranking him 147th at first. He had a DRS of a 0, which meant he was average. So he's average across there. He's 135 among his first basemen. And an R total of -2, ranking him 170. So Patrick Wisdom did not really help him out too much. Kind of had a above average to below average season. Nico Horner, the rookie, at second base, had a 13 OAA, ranking him 3rd, a DRS of 10, ranking him 6th, and a run total, or excuse me, R total, I keep wanting to say run total, an R total zone of 5, ranking him 10th. Now, he did play this position at shortstop, though. So, at shortstop, he was ranked 3rd, 6th, and 10th in the rankings, And they are going to be moving him over to second because of Dansby just signing with the club. But I expect that good defensive play to carry on over to second base. So that kind of helped the club there. And of course, adding the big star, Dansby Swanson at shortstop was ranked first in OAA with 20 above the average. For defensive runs saved, he had 9 and he was ranked 9. And for our total, he was 10 and ranked 4th. This shortstop is going to add to this club here, and this is what propelled them up. And at third base, we have Christopher Morrill, who had a -3 OAA, so he's below average there at a 162. Defensive runs saved, he gave up 3 at 173, and run total, he's average. So third base, first base for the Chicago Cubs, average to below average. They need to pick it up there, but that middle infield, second and short, that's what got him up there. As you can see, the average OAA of 7, which got him second amongst the teams. An average DRS of a 4 got him 5th, and the R total got him 6. That averaged out to a 4.3. And going up against them in time is the San Diego Padres. Now, this squad we already know is loaded, and this is probably one of the only squads up there that everybody could have guessed before this video. So we're going to break it down. Jake Cronenworth at first had an OAA of -1, so below average at a 128. He had a DRS of a -1 and below average again at a 149 and an R total of a -1. So defensively, Jake Cronenworth, kind of a below average year. But this is where we get into the next video where we're going to talk about offensively. Han-Sung Kim, the unlikely hero for the Padres after Tatis getting suspended. So he's going to be playing second, but mind you, the stats are from when he played shortstop. He had a 6th above average there, ranking him 12th. A DRS of a 10, ranking him 7th, and a R total of 7, ranking him 7th. He had a stellar year after Tatis went out, and he actually helped the Padres in the playoffs. The unsung hero, Han-Sung Kim. So with a nice, good average there, I'm hoping at second base here, he's able to kick it into gear and he's able to have an all-star season. And of course, the new acquisition for them, Xander Bogaerts at short. He had an OAA of a 5, was ranked 13th among his shortstops. A DRS of a 5, ranked 15th. And the R total of a 14 when he's the #1 ranked shortstop when it comes to R total. That, of course, definitely helped them out. And at the hot corner, none other than Manny Machado. He had an 8 above average there, ranking him 4th among third basemen. A DRS of a -3, ranking him 166. And the R total of 2, ranking him 31. Kind of a middle to above average there for Manny Machado. But all this gave him an OAA of a 4.5. They were ranked 3rd right behind the Cubs. A DRS of an 8. So a couple away from the Cubs, but this is where they got it back. The R total of 5.5. They are the second team, giving them a 4.3, giving them the tie with the Cubs. Now, we're going in to number 1. The #1 defensive infield of the MLB 2023 season. And who's it going to be? Let's find out. All right. The moment we've all been waiting for. At number 1, the top defensive infield going into 2023, the St. Louis Cardinals. I know. Blows your mind, right? Blew my mind last night when I put all the numbers together. But let's dive on into it. At first base, the Hall of Famer definitely, and the All-Star Paul Goldschmidt. He had a -6 OAA, ranking him 165 at first baseman. He had a DRS of a 2, ranking him 24th, and an R total of a 2, ranking him 19th. So kind of the same we've been seeing, that first base. It's kind of hard to get a bunch of outs there. If that ball's hitting towards you, you better be catching it or else it's getting into the right field. At second base, Brendan Donovan with a -2 OAA, ranking him 149th. He had a DRS of a 0, which is average. So, of course, he's going to rank him 127, but that means he was an average second baseman saving runs. And an R total of a -2 at 118. But I think this is where the left side of that infield is what held it up, just like the middle of the Chicago infield that held up their team. Tommy Edman at shortstop with the OAA of 11. ranked 5th among shortstops, a DRS of a 6 ranked 11th, and an R total of a 2 ranked 27th among shortstops. And of course, the Gold Glove, the All-Star Nolan Arenado with a 15 above average, ranking him 2nd in OAA, and a DRS of 19 ranking him 2nd, and a R total of 15 ranking him 1st. This boosted their average here. This left side of the defense is probably one of the best 1-2 combos until we probably see Tatis come over. But I anticipate Xander Bogaerts and Manny Machado putting up some numbers. But Tommy Edman and Nolan Arenado right now have it. And let's go on over to the averages for OAA. The average at 4.5 would rank them 3rd among all the teams. Average of a DRS of 6.75 which ranked them 2nd. And the average R total of 4.25 would rank them 3rd, which gave them an average ranking of a 2.7 and the lowest ranking of all. So they were number 1 on my list of defensive infields for 2023. Man, that was a lot of numbers to crunch. If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead, leave a like, leave a comment on what you think and on what statistics I should have used, or if you agree with the findings. And if you guys want to see an offensive video, let me know so I can start checking those numbers now and give me some hints on some stats I should use. I don't want to use the old batting average, on-base percentage. I like digging into the deeper stats there. But congratulations, St. Louis Cardinals. Their infield is the top defensive infield going into 2023. Of course, that can all change when spring training comes around. This is all just pulling numbers from last season and seeing how they can do this season. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.